This is not a crank call. The vice president is being held hostage in the owner's box. And they've got my daughter too.
What is your objective?
$1,700,000,000.
There's no situation. They want money, a lot of it. Give it to them. If you fuck around and something happens to my kid,
We're considering every possible response.
if you're not gonna pay, say so. I'll get my daughter.
When the game ends, everyone in this box and in this arena will die by explosion, fire, and panic.
In December of 1995 saw Sudden Death arrive in theatres. It was a modest success, making only $64 million worldwide, produced on a budget of $35 million. Many felt that the film didn't make much of an impact due to it being released a few days before Christmas. Due to its violence and adult themes, it was rated an R, or an 18 if you're in the UK. Many films fail at the box office during the Christmas period if they are rated for an older audience. Many moviegoers tend to see family films over the holidays. But despite not generating huge amounts in theatres, once it hit video, it made an extra $50 million in profit. The film received generally good reviews at the time, and fans today believe it to be one of Van Damme's best films and one of the best Die Hard clones. After the huge success of Die Hard in 1988, many studios wanted to copy the film's formula and released many movies copying its style and structure. Many of the clones proved popular, such as Under Siege, Passenger 57, Speed, and Air Force One. Sudden Death was directed by Peter Hames, who directed Van Damme a year earlier in Time Cop. Peter Hames is generally known for producing films in the action and sci-fi genre. He took on the big task of directing a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's classic 2001, and in more recent years he photographed his son John Hames' features, such as Universal Soldier, Regeneration. Peter Hames actually photographed many of his own films during his directing career, which is a rare talent not many directors can do. He has a very distinctive style, using a lot of high contrast, smoke and soft filters. If you watch his film Outland and Time Cop, they have a very similar style and look, and in some cases Sudden Death looks similar in areas. The casting is generally good. Powers Booth as the villain is fantastic. He is always good at playing corrupt government officials and police officers. He plays his role very cool and calm, but he also has an extremely short temper and doesn't mess around. He is no Alan Rickman, but he comes close. The kids are very much the weakest part of the film. The little girl, Katie, for her age, does an okay job and manages to show fear and be upset during the emotional scenes, and she isn't that irritating, but her older brother Tyler is an absolute pain. He is obviously written to be like that, but he is just so unlikable even by the end. Many of my friends always refer to him as a fat little shit. The movie starts with Darren McCord, a French-Canadian born firefighter with the Pittsburgh Fire Bureau, who suffers a personal crisis after he is unable to save a young girl from a house fire. Now removed from active duty, Darren is the fire marshal for the Civic Arena. While attending Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Chicago Blackhawks, with his daughter Emily and his son Tyler, he discovers a crime operation occurring in the arena. A terrorist group led by former United States government employee Joshua Foss is holding US Vice President Daniel Bender and several other VIP hostages in a luxury suite. Foss has the arena wired with explosives and plans to blow it up at the end of the game while having hundreds of millions of dollars wired into several offshore accounts. Darren must not just stop Foss, but somehow send the game into overtime and save his children simultaneously. Darren is first pulled into the plot when Emily is kidnapped by Carla, the sole female member of the terrorists dressed as a mascot, Iceberg. She witnesses Carla murder the staff on duty and is spared when she runs out of ammunition. Carla places Emily in the suite with the other hostages. Darren, who had given pursuit, is left to search in vain. Carla returns to deal with Darren and a long fight breaks out. He proves to be more than a match for Carla. Darren manages to kill Carla by kicking her into a large dishwasher, which pulls on her penguin's head strap and strangles her. Darren finds a security guard, but this man is a hostile in disguise. He gets the upper hand this time though and forces information out of the thug before stabbing him in the neck. Darren heads up to the executive offices and finds a mobile phone with which he calls the police. They put him in touch with Secret Service agent Matthew Hallmark, who advises that Darren stand by while the agents take charge. He angrily refuses, saying that he will handle this himself. The Secret Service and the Pittsburgh police team up to surround and corner off the arena, and a standoff ensues. Meanwhile, Darren manages to find a few of the bombs and disable them, whilst Frost goes about killing several hostages. Eventually, Hallmark manages to sneak inside and meet with Darren. It quickly transpires that Hallmark is yet another puppet of Foss's. Darren quickly kills him and uses Hallmark's phone to contact Foss. He taunts Darren with the news that he is holding his daughter captive. As time quickly ticks down, Darren manages to disable more bombs, but is severely slowed down by confrontations with Foss's men. At one point, the fire marshal must pretend to be the Pittsburgh goalie to escape the thugs and ends up successfully defending a shot. And with the Penguins down by 1 goal, they equalise in the last second, bringing the game to sudden death. Prolonging the game, but only until the next goal is made, Darren decides that there is no time left to find the remaining bombs and climbs up to the roof of the arena. Sudden Death, I feel, has easily one of the best action soundtracks. Its musical cues help drive the action extremely well. John Debney, who is now an extremely popular choice of composer, this was one of his earlier theatrical scores. John Debney really came to people's attention after his work on The Passion of the Christ, and has gone on to produce many scores to many blockbusters such as Iron Man 2 and Predators. The score also incorporates an emotional theme for Van Damme and his kids, which appears at the beginning of the movie and remains a current theme throughout, weaving its way into the action and blends really well. The soundtrack did arrive on CD, and unfortunately only 30 minutes of music was released, but hopefully they will release an expanded version of his score at one point or another. I think I watch Sudden Death like a couple of times a year. I never seem to get bored of it. I may have watched it more than Die Hard, I'm not sure why. Van Damme does get a lot of slack for his acting abilities, generally from people who haven't seen his films or may have watched some of his earlier flicks. There were signs of him being able to show emotions effectively on camera in Lionheart or AWOL in some territories, and it wasn't until Nowhere to Run, which in my opinion demonstrated his talents without him having to do much fighting. Jean-Claude got great reviews from critics for his genuine performance from the film JCVD, which was released a few years back and helped boost his career. Many people made an effort to see The Expendables 2 just for Jean-Claude. It just goes to show that he still has a large audience. But I think in Sudden Death, he clearly shows he can act to a very acceptable level. The scenes where he is distressed by the disappearance of his child, you genuinely believe he is very upset. If you put Van Damme with a good director, you will get a decent performance out of him. The action set pieces are nicely staged and photographed. It's great seeing fight scenes shot in CinemaScope. The fight he has with the Penguins mascot is funny, and also really entertaining at the same time. If you take this scene out of context, it leaves many thinking, what the fuck, and you end up making fun of it. But if you watch it as it is in the movie, the whole scene makes sense. The fight he has in the gym is a bit average, to be honest. No high flying kicks or close combat blocking. He gets knocked about by a punch bag, which wouldn't hurt you anyway, and knocks the guy out with a bit of exercise equipment. Not extremely exciting. When I was younger, I rented it, and the guy at the video store said I may not like it because there wasn't much fighting in it, which did leave me a bit concerned, but once I watched it and enjoyed it for what it was, I knew what he meant. I personally think it was done on purpose. He plays an ex-firefighter, and then you can't have him suddenly doing martial arts. The movie plays it down a lot, I think. There is typical Van Damme style of fighting in it, but it's not so in your face, and it's limited throughout the action. I highly recommend this movie. Don't just mug it off for being a Die Hard clone, or because Van Damme is in it. It's thoroughly entertaining and has some intense action scenes, especially when he has to blow up the owner's box in the stadium. The pacing of the movie is very satisfying. It gives you a good amount of time with Van Damme to try and disarm the bombs, and doesn't feel rushed or leaves you feeling bored. It clearly doesn't have as much fighting in it for a Van Damme flick, but it doesn't matter at all. The story is strong enough to keep you invested throughout the movie, and is easily one of my favourite Die Hard clones that I feel successfully stands on its own.
Kids, don't try this at home.
You stop me, you win. I get your bombs, I win. That's the game we're gonna play, you piece of shit.
What I said still goes. Don't do one damn thing.
They've turned this whole place into one big bomb. Do you understand?
How many did you find, fireman?